Welcome back to the Gentle Counsellor podcast. My name is Crystal and I support mums through their inner healing and parenting journeys. For those of you listening right now, this episode is a little bit different because back in October of 2021, it was World Mental Health Day and I had some wonderful friends join me over 3 days to talk all about mental health and motherhood at the Aussie Mums Mental Health virtual event. I hope you enjoyed these conversations, which were recorded live at the summit. I'm also thrilled to let you know that we will be returning in 2022 and plan on making it even bigger and better. It may or may not involve a retreat. Wherever you are right now, I hope these episodes find you when you truly need it. I would love to hear your feedback on these chats, so make sure you're connected with me on social media at The Gentle Counsellor. If you'd like to receive an email once a month that is full of freebies, parenting tips, links to podcast episodes, beautiful affirmation screensavers, and other goodies, make sure you are signed up to my email list. I hope you enjoy this chat. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here at the Aussie Mums Mental Health virtual event. My goodness, what a morning it has been so far with all of our talkers, and we're not even halfway through really. So I'm super excited to get into this next chat. If you are watching live, please let me know that you're here. Say hi in the comments so I know that, you know, not only is it actually working on Facebook, but that you're here with us. And if you're watching as a replay, still comment along with us as if you're here with us, because we're going to come back and check this post later on anyway. So if you have any questions that you want to ask, or if you just want to have a chat with us, definitely use the comments for that. But let's get into it with Rachelle from How to Live Slow, and we're going to be talking all about slow living for mothers. So welcome, Rachelle. Can you maybe start by introducing yourself and maybe talking about why you do what you do?
Yeah, hi, thank you so much. It's really great to be here. What an amazing lineup you've got. Yeah, so I am Rachelle Glendon and I'm the founder of How to Live Slow. So I work with mums, particularly with mums with kids under 5, with a focus on gentle, who want to be gentle or attached parents, to disengage from the hustle culture that we live in and really focus on the transformation that we go through as mothers.
Yes.
And I love that slow living can really be the way that we can do that. So that's kind of me. So I've got a podcast, I've got a couple of programs as well, qualified life coach, qualified matrescence facilitator as well. So yeah.
Awesome. And I love how you use all of those different skills into doing what you do. And you just share so many gems that when I see you post on Instagram, I stop and I'm like, that is such a good point. And then sometimes I'll get annoyed by certain things, and we'll get into our rants later on, I'm sure, because you and I like to do that a lot when we talk about motherhood issues anyway. So Prepare everyone, because you can join us in our rants. So let's start off easy. And can you talk to us a bit about what is slow living?
So slow living, it's a lifestyle choice. So it actually started in the 80s when, getting into the nitty gritty of it, started in the 80s when McDonald's wanted to open in Rome. And the Italians were like, hang on a minute, no, that's not what food is for us. Food is all about relationships and enjoying each other's company and long lunches, and why would we want to hurry that up? And then it's kind of moved on from there. And slow living for mothers, in my mind, is all about like figuring out how to do less, how to get that work-life balance. That quote that you see going around sometimes that says, we're expected to work like we don't have kids and parent like we don't work.
Yes.
It's like, that's too much pressure. So how can we take control of our own lives and slow everything down and not feel that pressure or reject that pressure to perform at a certain level in our lives?
I really love learning about it, because I think it's just too easy to go about our day-to-day lives. It's too easy to be busy now. There's always something to do. And I think especially as mums, there's always, you're experiencing it right now. There's always a kiddo around that needs something from you, whether it's food, snacks, attention, bath time, to play, like a million things that are already happening. There's always housework to do. And I think it's something that took me a while to kind of move past myself, was because it's like I was scared of missing out on something by not trying to do everything.
Yeah.
And then the irony of that is that if you're so busy trying to do everything, you're not even enjoying those little things or any of it really, or you're not even focused on what you actually want to be doing. It's just kind of living to this other rule set or whatever, which is really imposed on us. So
yeah,
because we're obviously talking more about motherhood here, why do you think it's so important for mothers to adopt this understanding of slow living?
It's really important for mums because, well, there's this society story that we kind of grab onto about what it means to be a good mum.
Mm-hmm. And
that's like always available, always, present, calm, everything. And we have this pressure. And then there's all of the intensity of parenting. But then there's all the things that we're actually going through personally when we become a mum. And I know you've got, is it Nikki coming on to talk about matrescence later on? But there is, like, matrescence basically is the transformation that you go through when you become a mum. And we need to be able to experience that fully. Like, there's a lot of psychological and emotional and mental and hormonal changes.
Yeah.
Physical, financial and economic, like our status in the world changes. And that's a lot to kind of process. And what you see when you aren't aware of that, or you don't allow that process to happen, and even the connection with your children, when that doesn't happen, then you get a lot of those mental health things where it feels like you're failing. You get mum guilt, you get mum rage. There's like anxiety, hypervigilance. There's all sorts of things that go on that can be at the very high end of the spectrum, but there's all other little things going on as well. Just like the frustration of trying to get kids out the door because of the expectation that you've got to be doing things or whatever. So, it's really, I think for your own well-being, it's really important to slow down and just do motherhood in the way that feels good for you.
Yeah. And I think what was a big realization for me as well was, because you were mentioning, which is same to me, that we are trying to follow more of that gentler attachment parenting, is that that's already pressure in that, right? Like, I feel like what we're talking about, everything you just said, every mum experiences that or feels that, or I would say 99.9%. If you're part of the 0.1%, like, tell us your secrets that aren't experiencing that, really. And so I think for us in this community of parenting, when we're trying to do respectful, conscious, whatever term you like to use, we generally call it gentle attachment. Is that something I unfortunately realize is that there are a lot of people that are like perfect parents in that community, that have this very strict set of rules and things, or are always one-upping what you should say or not say to your kids. Like, it's really frustrates me, and it's a rant for another day. But essentially, we're already feeling pressured to parent differently. So that is just going to add to what we're already feeling. And it's constant, right? Like, parenting is a 24/7 job. Like, it doesn't stop. And I think also when you're a professional in the field, like supporting mums as well, then again, there's more pressure because you feel like, oh, I should be getting this right all the time because I talk to people about how to get it right all the time. And it's just like, that's not how life works. Like, we cannot be perfect. That's an impossible standard to live up to. We're going to make mistakes. And I think that's even more of a reason why we need to be more mindful about, like, okay, if I'm going to spend my energy, I need to spend it where it really matters to me, like, not based on societal expectations, what other people view, what I'm told by other people. It's like, okay, I need to actually tap into myself and think, what is really important for me here? And sometimes that can change, and that's okay as well.
Yeah, that's so true. And when you slow down, you've got that chance to actually learn, okay, well, and see, I guess analyze is not the right way, but have a look, okay, well, that interaction with the kids didn't go well. What went wrong there? What did I need? Like, that rage that I got myself into, where did that come from? What need was unmet? Why did I get triggered by that?
Yes.
But when you're on to the next thing, you don't really take the time. So if you really want to do that attachment parenting, it is a different way of doing things. It's not the norm, same as busy, go, hustle kind of life. That's the normal way of doing things. But if you want to do something differently, you've really got to be quite mindful and intentional about it. And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. And it's just about making those observations and then taking the time to reflect. And a lot of us are missing that. We don't take the time to do those things. Instead, we internalize it as, oh, I'm not doing that, so that means I'm bad. I'm a bad mom.
Yeah.
Or, oh, look at this person over here doing that and I can't. So I'm not living up to the good mother that they are, or the perfect mother that they are, whatever that voice is telling us. And I know that we like to talk a lot about, the social conditions around that. So would you like to kind of take the wheel on that one?
Yeah, again, like that's the social conditioning, I guess you could call it the patriarchy. There's this kind of idealized mother.
Yes.
And we've got this, and again, like what we were saying before about, when you return to work and why is it always comes down to the mum, and then I know you've got Robin coming on to talk about the mental load as well, but that mental load does tend to fall on us. And that an interesting thing, a couple of books that I read, I don't know if you know of Annabelle Crabb, the political woman. She wrote this book called The Wife Drought. And in it, she was sort of saying, like, she's a political reporter, but she kind of looked at the pressure of, or how having a wife is actually a really beneficial thing to to men in their careers.
Yeah.
But when you go back to work as a mum, you've had your maternity leave, actually, that has put you into the mode of, oh, well, I've been at home, so I'll just do it all. And so having kids and a career actually is a detriment to your career as a woman. Anyway, kind of getting off a bit off track, but that is kind of the social conditions that we live in.
Yeah.
And then it impacts our relationships at home as well. So there's a lot of resentment, frustration and things that come up because it's like, well, why am I always the one that has to have the day off when the baby's sick? Why am I the one doing all the drop-offs? Why am I the one that has... Yeah, exactly. But then you're like, but actually he's just had, or he or she, your partner, your significant other, has also had the training that says that's how it's meant to be.
Yes.
So again, slow living, intentionally going, well, let's us talk about how we can do this differently and break those molds.
Such an important point you're bringing up, because these are conversations that I have had to have in my relationship as well. And they weren't, thankfully, they weren't met with, what am I going to say, resistance, because it's been really great having open conversations with my husband about this, because now it's opened up his eyes to how things are. And I also think that's even more important because we have a daughter. And so I really want him to be very aware of, what he wants for her, because I know he wants the best for her. But it's like, do you actually realize the world that we're living in? We even made a joke about something the other day, and I said something to him about, because we do a lot of banter in our relationship. So I said something about like, oh, you're such a white man, such a man or something. He's like, I'm a white man, thank you. Like, he knows the privilege that he sits in. And it made me laugh even more, but that's how it's become in our relationship now that we can like joke about it. He's very aware of it. But even to things like you were saying with sick days, back when I used to be a school counselor, I had to travel an hour away for work, whereas my husband was at least 20 minutes if he had to be. So we had to change the forms for the contact details to be him. And guess who they kept emailing and calling? Still me. And he started getting very angry. So then it was great to sit back and be like, like, do you see what this is like? So they'd be like trying to call me if my kid was sick and I couldn't answer. Not only could I not answer because I'm like counseling kids, but I'm like an hour away. What am I going to do anyway? And so amazing. Things like that, or things like me leaving him with the kids so I could go to work or whatever it might be. It's been really helpful for him to see, like, this is actually what you do all day, or this is what it feels like. And now he's the one having conversations with other people at work as well. Yeah, he's a manager, so he's also made accommodations for one of the mums that came back to work to be pumping at her desk, and he's normalized it in the office. And I'm like, oh, that's so great. But then it shouldn't be something to be praised, because it shouldn't even be a thing. Like, that's also, we've had conversations about him being like, but I'm also aware now that I'm not telling you this to be like, oh, look at me. It's like, I'm also realizing like that shouldn't even be a big deal. Like something like that should be like, oh, I have the best husband in the world. And like he's aware of that too. So it's like, it's so deep rooted in so many different aspects. And we're just all, you know, chugging along on that, you know, hamster wheel.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say there that if you're feeling like, okay, well, that's nice for you guys. You've obviously got great husbands. Definitely, you know,
I'm only laughing because, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
It is work.
Relationships are a lot of work.
It is. Yeah, you're right. And what happens when you first start, like you might be like, well, come on, I need you to do this or I need you to do that. And then it sounds like I need you to take the bin out. Why can't you do that? You know, because actually and it sounds like nagging. They're like, oh, stop nagging me. It actually is because deep down, we still believe that it should be us doing it. So we have to get into our own frame of mind that we deserve the equality. We need to learn as independent women. We've been raised that we can do it all. We've been raised to not ask for help or rock the boat, to be good girls. We have to come to a point as mothers to understand that asking for help from our partner is the way that he is our village in a villageless world.
Yes.
And accepting his help and asking for it in a way where you know that you deserve it and that it's equality in your relationship, you have to get to that point. Otherwise, it is going to continue to be nagging.
And I also...
And it takes time.
There's so much to even unpack in that, you know. It's like...
I know.
It's like even things like the bin, which... I remember we went to couples counselling and we were talking about stuff like this because we just needed a third person to help us out a bit. But it was frustrating because this person was like, okay, what are the things you want him to do, Crystal? And it's like, you know, do the bins, clean the bathrooms once a week, whatever. It was like this list of things. I'm like, yeah, but like, it's not even about the list of things. Like it is, but it isn't. It's like, when I've asked you to take the bin out, one, I shouldn't actually have to freaking ask you. Like you have eyeballs.
You're the other adult in this house. Who do you think's doing it if it's not you?
But like even beyond that, it's like the fact that when I do ask you and you don't, you've made a choice to not pick me as well. Like you've made a choice to be disrespectful and not listen to me. And I think that's where, like for us, so we kind of did our own work getting to the bottom of me trying to explain, like that's what's happening for me is like a trigger as well. Like you got to remember we're all triggering each other in relationships. So like me not being heard is like actually a number one trigger. So what seems little things like that, it triggers that response. So then that's why these little things become big things. And then they slap on the term nagging, which is just another way of oppressing us. And it's just rant central over here anyway. But I also want it very clear, like we've put a lot of work into our relationship as well. So it's possible to get to a place, but in saying that, we've been together 10 years. Okay. Like it's not like, you know, I've actually said to my husband, we should write a book because if anyone here knows about attachment theory, or if you want to learn about it more, which I share about a lot, we're that classic avoidant anxious, which is like the worst freaking combination. So I actually do want to write a book with him because of how much work we've had to do together and how much awareness he's had to learn, and how much empathy he's had to develop as well, because he was missing, you know, crucial things like that. So I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but I think it's really important still to consider these other layers to these issues, because it all 100%. It all goes hand in hand. Because at one point it's like we need to be asking for help, but at the other point it's like, but we shouldn't have to ask for help.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's right. And we're in this point now where it's like, okay, well, we can go along, and if we don't, and that's why slow living is so important, because it's not just earning money in life that's important. You might, you know, if you're going along, you're like, he's such a jerk, and you end up breaking up. But if you slow down and you prioritize certain things, like your relationship can become a priority. You can fix it. You can reconnect. Like you are a different person after you have kids. So it's like he's got to get to know you again.
Yeah, I was just thinking that I like how you make that a point, because for anyone watching this who is also like us, like the cycle breakers, I was talking about that a bit this morning. We do that for our kids. Like we spend the time researching how to parent differently and implementing it and taking those breaks, but we can also do that for our relationship as well. I like that point that you just made there too. I connections happening.
Yeah, exactly. And, another little side note to that is like talking to so many women, I'm like, you know what? My husband might have his faults, but I actually don't want anyone else's either. Like, I'd rather fix the relationship I've got.
Yes. There's no way I am starting over. It's also how I joke about like finding a new therapist. I'm like, I'm not going to find someone new to divulge like all my years of trauma. Like I found my person now.
Yeah, we committed.
But I also think it's obviously putting in the disclaimer. I had to do this for an earlier talk as well. When we're talking about this, we're not talking about abusive or neglectful relationships. There's obviously a line there.
There's an underlying level of love.
We're sharing from our personal experiences and our relationships. So, and we've had many talks about this kind of thing too. So I think that's the difference, right? Is whether you have someone that's willing to or not. It's all about the intention. At the end of the day, it's about the intention. Are they trying? Are you trying? That's what matters. When you're in a position where you're the only one trying and this other person has made it very clear that they do not care and that they're not going to try, you also don't need to add to your load of being someone's therapist, right? So that's why like getting an external person can be really good for them individually or you as a couple. Then there are cases where it's like it's actually better for you to leave that relationship. I have a joke, I'm pretty sure I've shared it with Rachelle before as well, that when my husband had to travel for work and he'd be away for a couple of nights, it was like the easiest parenting. I don't know, like everything was clean in the house. The kids and I were all getting along great. Like, and then it's like, it wasn't him that's the issue. Like, he's not a bad person. It's not it's like, I didn't have that person triggering me, or I didn't have that tired energy to like just automatically match or whatever. Like, there's so much more going on. And I think even things like that, like being triggered or not absorbing someone's negative energy is also a crucial part to slow living, because like you said at the very beginning, it's really about reflecting. Like that's how it all starts, is you're reflecting either after the moment or at the end of the day, and you're kind of considering like, oh, okay, so what do I want to look or feel different for tomorrow perhaps? So I was going to ask as well, Rachelle, where can people start with slowing down?
So we have gone so deep to the heart of what slow living can really do for your life, but there are some kind of like easier steps.
I'm like, we need to stop the rant and like get back to the chat.
we've gone quite deep quite quickly, but I have like for my little slow life, I shouldn't say little, for my slow life program, I've kind of got like the 4 pillars of slow living, which kind of beautifully match the seasons as well, which I think is really sweet. So the first step is to do less, which is winter, right? So doing less is all about like learning how to say no, like lovingly to activities, people, invites, whatever it is. And that's all about like understanding what your priorities are. Again, whether it's your relationship, your career, your kids, exercise, doesn't matter what your priorities are. You get to decide that. And then holding firm boundaries. So those 3 things, like those 3 things really do get automatically your life starts to slow down. But then the next one, which would be spring, is to need less, which is all about, okay, well, if you know your priorities, there's FOMO. So avoiding FOMO, like, so needing less as in like not consuming as much, like not spending. So getting yourself into a position where you are living within your means so that you don't have that pressure to have to earn and work full time if you'd rather work part time. So a few like little strategies around that. And then that FOMO is like, okay, well, what is FOMO telling you? So if you're feeling FOMO about something that someone else is doing, is it because you want to be doing that specifically, or is it because there's something in your life that you're not doing that you want to do?
Yes.
Because if you're feeling really fulfilled and you're really clear on your priorities, you shouldn't get FOMO, really. You should just be really happy for other people.
Yeah, that's a point as well. I just want to expand on a little bit, is that that can lead to a lot of resentment in your relationship. Like if your partner goes out to the gym whenever they feel like it, is how you would kind of phrase that. Or if they're always having boys' nights or playing games or going to the toilet for an hour, it's like take a page from their book.
Yeah.
I think I noticed that when I realized I was asking permission to go to the toilet. You know,
Yeah.
you have the baby and you're like, oh, is it all right if I just go to the toilet for 5 minutes? It's like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? Like,
Yes.
makes no sense at all. So
I
I
know.
think that's part of the reflection and understanding, and that builds resentment. But I think part of that is like, we can do that to ourselves. And I'm not saying that as if that other person's behavior isn't happening. I mean, we just let it fester instead of addressing it, or instead of, like you're saying, looking inward and going, oh, what am I not doing for myself then? What am I like envious of that they're doing that I'm missing out on, that's actually now causing resentment in our relationship?
Yeah, and you can flip that from like that tit for tat, you got to do this, so I'm going to do this, to more of a like, we both deserve to have fulfilling lives, and I want to support you to do the things you want to do because you also support me. So you got to get, it's just a small shift, but it really makes a big difference. Yeah. And then there's the so then there's like summer, which is being present. Summer is all like that social sort of vibe. So being really present. So okay, what kind of mum do you want to be? How can you be more present in the moment? How can you stop the scroll and show up and you know, respond, not react, and be the, you know, do the things that make you feel like, okay, I did my best today. So again, that's kind of like we start with the practical stuff and we start to dip into more of that esoteric or the stuff that we've already talked about, the deeper stuff. And then autumn is all about like completing the cycle and going, all right, well, now I've got all that nailed down. It's all about living more aligned to that. So what do I need to change now? Okay, what language can I use? If I'm always saying, hey, I'm really busy, I'm feeling tired, shifting that. Because how you explain your life and the words you use actually influence your experience. So when you're saying like, I'm so busy all the time, that's what you get. So this is like habit shifting stuff as well.
Definitely. I like that. I think language is really important, especially when we're talking about ourselves. And that also makes me think about how we said at the beginning, how it can change. Like if you have a newborn compared to when you have a toddler, compared to when you have a kid at school, compared to when your kids are grown and out of the house, like those are very different ways of being a mother, and probably very different in how you want to have your everyday or show up. I mean, I would probably take a guess that the core values and morals are probably the same, but it might just look a little bit different. So I think it's also part of slow living is checking in and making adjustments where you need to, or trying something, like just one thing, and then see how that goes. If that feels good, great. Now you can add something else or change something else. Doesn't have to be like, all right, waking up tomorrow, slow living.
Exactly.
Whatever that means.
That's right.
It's like a process as well.
And like that's part of like what makes life fun is experimenting with different things. Okay, well, you don't have to make a decision and then you're locked in. You can always change.
Such good advice. I love it. Is there anything else that you were desperately wanting to share with us before we finish our chat?
I think I've said like so much. I know that's a lot to take away.
I know. I nipped our rant in a little bit. It's just when you get so passionate about the topic and when you experience it yourself, you know, it's like,
exactly. I would just say that what we've talked about today, it is possible for you. It might not happen overnight. It is a long-term thing. And you just start small and don't believe what you see on social media. So nobody's like, you know, really take stock of, okay, well, if your house, like Pinterest perfect, like if your house is messy, guaranteed everyone else's is as well. And motherhood is not housework.
This looks nice. You should see the floor. Like I just shifted the pile of stuff.
I know. I mean, I've got my little one here interrupting, so that's what like
we're all
is,
mums,
right?
We're all mums here.
So
well, great.
Just start with the small things and it really will add up. But you deserve to be the mother that you want to be.
Yes. Prioritizing ourselves and our needs is very important. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with us today, Rachelle. Can you tell everyone where to find more of you?
So I am on, my website is How to Live Slow. So is my podcast, howtoliveslow.com. That's the name of my podcast. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, all just How to Live Slow.
Awesome. I didn't know you're on Pinterest.
Yeah.
I'll have to find you over there. I've just started trying to be better with Pinterest, actually.
Oh, yeah, Pinterest is great.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much again. And
thank you.
If anyone has any questions, again, make sure to put it in the comments, because we'll be coming back to check in with everyone.
Happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.